Bueno, estamos en directo. Hola a todos, ¿cómo estáis? Bienvenidos una vez más aquí. Bueno, buenas noches para unos. Aquí en España al menos buenas noches, ¿no? Y para todos los que estáis ahí en América Latina, he visto ya que hay mucha gente de Perú, México, bueno, Argentina. Hola a todos. Espero que estéis muy bien. Y bueno, estamos aquí una vez más haciendo nuestra live y bienvenidos. Yo, antes de empezar, os quiero decir una cosa muy interesante, ¿vale? Os he dicho la semana pasada, pero ya estamos haciendo esto hace 2 lives, creo, y está yendo muy bien. O sea que estamos ofreciendo, para todos los que queráis empezar, estamos ofreciendo una clase gratuita y también un código promocional de hasta un 35% de descuento con el enlace que está aquí abajo, ¿vale? O sea que hasta un 35% de descuento. Y el principal de todo esto es que tenéis solo 3 horas de este código válido después de esta live, ¿vale? Entonces empieza ahora hasta las 3 horas después de esto. Entonces estamos haciendo esto, no sé si continuará, pero al menos si queréis empezar con algo interesante y que empezáis a estudiar, hacer clic aquí abajo y aprovechar este descuento de 35% off, ¿vale? Y bueno, para todos los que ya me conocen, soy Tiago. Esta es Cambly, es una plataforma para todos los que queréis empezar a aprender inglés. Y bueno, nada mejor que aprender inglés con nativos, ¿vale? Entonces, hoy vamos a hablar de un tema muy interesante. Ya hicimos esto hablando de cómo estudiar en Inglaterra, ha sido un suceso. La gente se ha enamorado de la tutora y ha sido, bueno, increíble. Y bueno, hoy decidimos hacer esto, pero hablando de Estados Unidos, cómo estudiar en Estados Unidos. Y de esta vez vamos a hacer un poco diferente y vamos a hablar de una experiencia, de cómo nuestro tutor de hoy, bueno, ha estudiado en Estados Unidos, en Miami, entonces va a hablar un poco más de su experiencia y bueno, de todo esto. Si tenéis dudas, preguntas, cualquier cosa, dejar aquí el comentario y vamos a contestar el máximo posible, ¿vale? Poner un like y esto. Empezamos, ¿vale? So, let's go to English. So, how are you, Guy? How's everything going? Are you okay?
Hello, Tiago. Hello, everyone who's watching us live. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Life is good. The weather here is pretty cold and rainy today, but that won't bring down our spirits. Everything is going pretty well. How is everything with you?
That's amazing. Glad to hear that. Yeah, well, everything here is good as well. Here in Madrid, here we now on summer times, right? So it's pretty hot actually, and here in Madrid, it's today we went to like 39 degrees Celsius, so it's pretty hot, but it's good. Summertime, it's always good, and so I love it.
Yeah.
And let me go, everybody who's watching us here, let me know what's the weather like in your city. You're on winter time and summertime. It's good or bad. Let me know. Let us know here in the comments. It will be interesting to know. And
Yeah.
well, I think most of the people already know, like both of us, we already did a lot of live sessions together. So, but for the ones who did not know you yet, introduce
Sure.
yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
All right. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Guy. For those who've seen our live sessions before, I'm glad to have you back. For those who don't know me, I'm an artist. I lived in Miami for most of my life. Right now, I'm living in Rio de Janeiro, and I'm a tutor on Cambly. So I love teaching and helping students from all levels of English. And I love talking about, sports and entertainment, politics, anything, but specifically art. So if you're an artist yourself and you want to improve your vocabulary, you want to be able to talk about your work or talk about, things related to art, then give me a call. It would be great to help you.
That's interesting. That's pretty interesting. And it came like this. It's the topic that we're going to discuss today, right? We're going to talk about how was your life in Miami and a little bit of your story in how you got into the university, but not just that. We're going to maybe talk about how is the student life in Miami. Let's say like that, as you lived in Miami. So let's put it on Miami. So that's
Sure.
interesting. If you guys have any comments about whatever you like to know about Miami or how to study in the U.S., so let us know. We're trying to talk. We are not experts, but I mean, we are going to try to answer your questions in the best way possible. And
Right.
so before we already know that you study arts in Miami, so you got in the university there. But before we go into that, talk a little bit about what is the how you got into the university. How where you start in the like I don't know, it's college or tell us a little bit about that because sometimes it's a little confusing for us who are not living in the U.S. So.
Right. Yeah, it is different. The school system in America overall, it could be quite different from a lot of different countries, especially from here in Brazil. It is pretty different. The public school system, it's so large and it works pretty well, on like a national level. So it's a little different the way that people get into a university or get into college. Here in Brazil, for example, there's one big exam that all students in the country can take to get into a university of their choosing, depending on their grades. They will get accepted into a good university or so in America it's a little different. It's a lot about the grades that you had while you were in school, the activities that you did. There's a lot more that plays into getting into a good university. If you're an athlete, if you played sports, all these things will have an impact on whether you will be accepted into a good university program. Maybe you will get scholarships. Maybe you receive a scholarship to play sports for a university. So it's quite different.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other ways of getting into universities like I did. So I think this will actually be interesting because the way that I followed through with my personal education was a bit different than, I guess, like the ordinary, I would say, or like the most
Mm.
the way that most people will get into a university, like right out of high school, right? It took me
Mm-hmm.
a few years to go back into college. After I finished high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, so I didn't go straight into university. So I kind of missed that timing, of like finishing high school and using your grades and your test grades and all of that to go right into a big university.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually worked and I, try to figure out a little more about myself and what is it that I want to study. So by the time that I did decide to go into like a higher education, the way that I went about things was through a community college, which is something very common
Mm-hmm.
also in United States. So you have the big universities that are very famous, from like Harvard to UCLA and University of
Stanford.
Florida. You have all these like big universities, Yale, the Ivy League schools.
Mm-hmm.
So these universities are very prestigious, and they offer all kinds of degrees, right? So a university is usually like a higher education that offers all fields. Like you can study law or medicine, engineering, arts, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
A community college is going to be something much smaller, a much smaller scale. Um, the types of people that will go there are very, it varies, but there's a lot of people who maybe don't have the money to go into a big university right away, or they want to study some faster degrees so they can get into the work field. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different situations of why someone will go to a community college instead or before they go to a big university,
Mm-hmm.
which is the route that I took. But I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's basically the route that I took. So, to sum it up, after you finish high school, a lot of people will go straight into a big university, right? And it's like you see in movies, the kids, they leave home, they're 18 years old, their parents drop them off, and they leave in the dorms, and they make friends, and they join a sorority or like a frat, and so that's like the kind of the standard way of going into like a university. That's not what happened to me. And I went to an art school, so my whole experience was pretty different than that of like movies. But that's like the usual way that people will go to a university. And then there's people who will go a different route. They'll go to a community college first. So a community college is a much smaller school. It's usually more affordable. It's usually people who are, still living at home or within your state, so you're not moving somewhere else. And maybe people who already have a job, so they don't have as much time to be a full-time student. Or maybe you have a family or something that you're taking care of, so you only want to study part-time. So it's like a slower way of progressing through the education. And within a community college, you can study for 2 years, earn a degree, which we call the associates, and go find work in that field, right? Or you can finish those 2 years, transfer to a big university, and do 2 more years and finish your bachelor's. So instead of going straight to a university and studying there for 4 or 5 years, you would do 2 years in a community college, and then you complete your education in a university, which is pretty much what I did, yeah.
Oh,
so I don't know if I answered your question. But.
No, actually, yes. But let me. So wait. Before I ask the question that I want to ask, I want to tell everybody who's watching us on Instagram to just switch and go to YouTube, because we're going to continue just on YouTube. So we put a link on the description there. So it's in our bio. We can go there and click. So everybody who's Instagram, just go to YouTube, because we're going to continue on just on YouTube. Okay. And I want to ask this question, because since you talked about like the community college, and I see already a few people here asking questions about like visa and everything. But what is interesting about the community college is that you see the community college is just for Americans, or people can apply to that. For example, people from Mexico or from Spain. I can apply to be on a community college. There's foreign people there, or just Americans?
Yeah, like the whole question with visas and everything, I'm not an expert. I'm not sure exactly if it's the J1 or whatever type visa you need to study in America. But I know that you could apply to, if you are granted a visa, like a student visa, then you can go to a community college. So this is another reason some people might go to a community college first, is because maybe you weren't the best student in high school, which kind of happened to me. When I was a teenager, let's say, I wasn't that interested in academics. I was very into going surfing and being with my friends and, just watching cartoons and playing video games. I wasn't the most dedicated student in high school. So I didn't have the best grades. So for a kid who kind of went through that phase and maybe wasn't the best student, it will be kind of hard for him to get accepted into a Harvard or to get accepted into Yale or Columbia, one of like these top league schools. And it will be hard for you to get like scholarships. And we know that universities in America are very expensive. So another reason that people will go the community college route is because, one, it's more affordable, especially if you're an in-state student, which I'll explain in a little bit. And the other reason is the criteria for you to be accepted is way more relaxed. As long as you have a high school diploma, they pretty much will accept you. So it's a great alternative for people who weren't the best students. You didn't have the best grades. You didn't have all these extracurricular activities. You're not an athlete. Maybe you finished high school a few years ago and you had children very young and you had to take care of your life first, and now you're ready to go back into your education, right? So it's a very good way for people to get back into pursuing their dream of, earning a degree. So as far as I am aware, you can apply, and I think likely you will be accepted into a community college. You will depend on your visa. Okay, so this is like a whole different thing. That is if the United States will grant you the rights to come to America and be a student. That's not something as much of like the school accepting you or not.
Okay, so that's more related to visa. Yeah, well, in terms of visa, I really don't know. So, but as you said, there's probably a few visas that everybody can watch and do a little research on that and see what you need in terms of apply to that community college or university. I mean, if I know, I have a friend that he's trying to go into Harvard. So actually, he put it on his mind that he wants to be on one of the top 5 universities in the U.S. So, I mean, now he's talking about like Harvard, Stanford, and Yale. I mean, those that you mentioned, and it's
right.
It is pretty hard. It's extremely hard. I mean, it's. I don't know if I will be ever capable of doing that. Actually, I don't know if I want it. Actually, but I think you need to take care of visa and need to do that. So, but it's interesting to know that this community college is something that maybe sometimes we think about. Oh, we need to go to Harvard. We know just the top 10, but we forgot about this community college. Sometimes it's something that we don't necessarily know much about it. So it's very interesting to know.
And, like example. When I finished high school, I didn't have credentials to get into a big I didn't even apply because that wasn't on my radar. But I wouldn't have gotten into a very good school, But once I went to the community college, I was a little more mature. And so it's very different when you're 18, and this can change from person to person. It's not about your age. But I know a lot of people will relate to this. You're 18, you're not that great of a student, you don't really care that much about academics, but you're kind of feeling forced into pursuing a degree because your family expects you to, and you're not even sure what you want to do. So you kind of just point at something and say, hey, I'll study business or engineering or, software engineering, like these popular things nowadays because of technology. Or you choose whatever, and you just go, and you don't even feel motivated. You kind of feel forced, And a lot of these people will have a hard time going through school because their mind is not in there. You're doing it as an obligation. So if you're not a good student already in high school, then for you to go to college as an obligation, and in college you have more freedom of not having to attend the classes. You're not a kid anymore, so your parents are not really enforcing that on you. Yeah. Your professors are not enforcing that on you. It's all upon you to find the motivation to, study and get the grades and all of that. So, it's like, it's very hard to succeed. So the way I did it, once I did decide to go to college, I was already more mature. I felt an interest for what I started studying, which was graphic design at first. And I was a completely different student from when I was in high school. So my actual time in college was great. I was a straight A student. The grading system in countries in America, we use a grade system from 0 to 4. That's your GPA, your grade point average. So you can go from 0 points to 4 points, the average being 2. Right, so if you want to graduate, if you want to pass on your classes, you need a 2, which is the letter C. We also use like the letter system, right? Okay. So you have an F is where you fail, a D, you didn't fail, but you don't really meet all the requirements to go on. So it's kind of weird, you don't get an F, but you still have to retake the class. E, B, and you pass the class, you're good. But the higher your grade is, the higher your GPA, and that makes easier for you to get scholarships, or you will probably graduate with like honors on your degree, which kind of hopefully will help you get a better job in the future or something. I don't know. So from a 0 to 4, I finished my community college with a 3.69 or something, which is pretty high. So it's almost a 4.0.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
It's like straight A pretty much. So it was a whole different experience. So when I finished community college, I kind of already changed my mind from the graphic designs into fine arts, because I was already developing more interest in my classes that were hands-on, and it dealt more with drawing and painting than the computer classes themselves. So when I applied to the university that I went to, which is actually a fine arts school, it's called New World School of the Arts in Miami. It's a school of just fine arts. So you have music, painting, drawing, theater. It's a very traditional like conservatory for arts, and it's very prestigious, and it's very hard to get into.
Mm-hmm.
I had to present a portfolio. I had to go for interviews, and I got in. So I got into this great art school with a full scholarship. I didn't have to pay 1 cent to go to school because I did so well in community college.
Whoa.
Whereas if I try to apply there right out of high school, chances are I would not have been accepted. So it's a great opportunity for people who didn't do so well as a teenager in school, and now maybe it's been a few years, you're more mature and you're dedicated, and it still provides you a chance to get into a big university in the future,
Mm-hmm.
So it's very cool. And I know students who have studied with me who did the same route, and they went on to go get their masters in big Ivy League schools,
Mm-hmm.
So it's very cool. Yeah, it's a very interesting platform.
Yeah.
Gives a lot of opportunity for a lot of students.
Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. Actually, just for everybody who's watching us, just make sure if you wanted to study on the U.S. and any state, I mean, don't just look for the big universities. Look to this community college that, as Guy is talking and explaining to us, because it's, as we are seeing, it's a huge and amazing opportunity for all of us to just be able to go into a community college, understand the system, understand the culture, and then maybe go to a big university. So that's very interesting to know. And
yeah, it would be great. You make a lot of friends. The teachers are good. I had great teachers in community college, even better than some teachers I had in university. It's not like I said, it's not like that lifestyle that you see in movies. The community college won't have a big football stadium and cheerleaders and like fraternities and sororities and all that stuff that we see on like movies, like these big universities, pep rallies and cheerleaders, and you won't go to a class in this big like big classrooms with like 200 students where you're taking notes up in the stand. It'll be something way smaller, closer to like a regular school vibe, and you'll probably just show up for your classes and then you go home. So it's a little different than the kid who wants to experience that whole, I want to be a freshman and live in the dorms and go to the football games. So it is a different lifestyle. But academic-wise, it's great. It's a great chance. And then you can go on to a university later if you choose to do so. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And let's. I see that we're receiving like thousands of questions here. So
I bet.
I see that, for example, I can notice some people are asking like for specific things. Like, for example, there's Samuel. He's asking to how to be a pilot, what he should study. I really don't know. Do you know? Maybe
no
an aviation engineer. I don't know. I really don't know.
That would be a good start, but I think they have like some pilot schools and programs. I don't think it's something you need a degree for, like a university. I think maybe you just need to go to a pilot school and get a certificate.
Yeah, well,
they do have some in Florida. I know that from, well, anyways.
Uh-huh. So what?
So yeah, I don't know if you need like a diploma, like to go to university. So, but if you want to be a pilot, like in the Air Force, then I guess you have to enlist, and you would have to like live in America and be a resident, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he's asking though.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, somehow weird try to answer that. And we saw here as well, for example, Joseph. Joseph's asking about architecture. He wanted to be an architect. So do you know any interesting school in the US to become an architect?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of great schools for architect.
I think there's one in Miami, but right? There's one actually very, I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, maybe FIU has a good program. Miami has some pretty good schools. University of Miami and FIU are probably the most famous too, but there are some other ones.
Mm-hmm.
In the school that I went to, there wasn't architecture per se. We did study some architecture because, it kind of mixes with a lot of art history and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's Rising, there is some other schools in Florida which are good. And if you leave Florida, there's like tons, like the Chicago Institute's probably amazing for architecture. So there's like a lot of different schools. Architecture is a very cool field. I was just teaching a class earlier today to a Turkish student, and she's finishing her master's in architecture. So we talked a lot about like her favorite architects. It was pretty interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, but I don't know exactly a school to tell him specifically, but there's a lot of good programs, Google is your friend. If you look up, top architecture universities, it will give you a list. So that's another thing about America, there's tons of good universities because the country is so large, and, it goes from east to west, it's like a big continent almost.
Yeah.
And all of United States is super well developed. So you will find good universities in all sides, from Florida to Boston to California, the Midwest will have good schools. So there's like a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that comes, I see that people are asking for, like in terms of scholarship and all those things. So I'm pretty sure that you can apply to scholarship without being actually on the US. You can start your process online. I'm pretty sure about that. Do you know something about it? Because I saw here there's like for example Juan. He's asking if it's possible to get a scholarship if you live in another country, in Mexico. He's from Mexico, and I'm pretty sure that you can start your process of asking for a scholarship in your home country, and then you go there. But I mean, do you know something about it?
Yeah, from what I know, and again, I didn't go through this whole like foreign student process, being American myself, but I have a student who was looking to be an exchange student, and I did like some very quick research, a matter of like 10 minutes, so I could be completely wrong. But from what I found out, I don't think they really give foreign students like grants and loans, which is one type of scholarship. But I don't know about like private scholarships or the university itself funding a student, right? So like if you're a prodigy from Spain and you're like a great kid in high school and you're designing all these great projects and you want to be an engineer, and you like, you go to competitions with your high school and you're like amazing, right? You're prodigy. And the United States is looking at you and MIT says, hey, we want that kid from Spain, So I'm pretty sure they will offer you a full scholarship. But other than that, I don't know exactly what is the process of applying. I'm sure you could apply. I don't know if you'll be eligible. And you also have to see, depending on the country that you, if your own government has any programs that help students go study abroad. That's something that will be particular to each person depending on where you live. Like your own country, your own government might have some programs that help funding and help sponsor students who want to go study for a semester abroad, or maybe your university has some connections with a university in the US and they have like an exchange program. So these are all things that you have to look into.
Yeah.
But I think as grants and the loans, which is something granted by the government, right? So this is like scholarship granted by the government. The government will give funding to students to help them afford school, because in the United States there are no free schools.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if you don't have any money, right, and your family doesn't have money? Well, then usually you go through this route of either getting grants. Grants are money. Grant is money that is given to you and you don't have to pay it back. So a way to get a grant is by being, a very good student, having very good grades. Another way to get a grant is if you fall into like some particular cases of maybe, you're like a single parent, or, you're like, they have all kinds of grants for all kinds of different people. So you have to like do a lot of research and find as much as you can about these opportunities of getting funding and apply to all of them. And some of them are simple. You just like send in an application. Some of them you have to write an essay. Some of them you have to like, give some supporting information. But there's a lot of opportunities. But again, I don't know exactly how much applies to foreign students, as an American or a citizen or as a resident. There's a lot of opportunity to get grants. And if you don't get grants or you don't get enough to cover for your whole tuition, then you usually take loans. So loans is money that they will give it to you, you finish your school, and usually 1 year after you graduate, or 6 months to a year after you graduate, you have to start paying them back, right? So you borrow money. It's not granted. But for foreign students, you have to do some research. Again, I'm pretty sure you can find most of that on Google. And my advice would be to look into your own government, like your own, country, see if they have any programs. And whatever school that you study in currently, already go to university, what kind of programs do they have and partnerships with schools abroad? I think that might be the best way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so interesting. So you guys as Juan asked, so from Mexico, so go into your Mexican government, see if they have something, the exchange students or your university or whatever. So make sure to do a huge research because it's very important. And let me ask one other question here that I saw that is actually quite interesting, and it's from Jorge. So hello, George. So Jorge or George. So I don't know. And he's asking about to go probably into the community college. The age is important. How old are you? It's the people are interested in that, or it's not important the age.
It's not important. Community college is pretty democratic. They take just about everyone. Like they will have you'll have the criteria for you to apply, but it's usually very like relaxed. You do have to have like a high school diploma or an equivalent, whether it's from your country or from the US. So you have to have completed high school, right? Like regular schooling. Other than that, I can't remember really any other specifics that they might deny you. I think it's pretty open because they want as many people as possible to come in so that people can, restart their lives, So age for sure is it's not an issue. I had, classmates from all ages. I think the only requirement that I can remember now is that you must have your high school diploma or have finished, high school, whatever it is that you lived before. And one thing to point out is in the United States, they have two types of tuition. One is called in-state and the other one is called out-of-state. Because in the United States, it's very common for people to finish school and leave their home to go to university, right? So you're 18 years old, you finish high school, You get accepted into a nice program, and your parents say, goodbye, time to leave the nest. And with that, many people go live in a different state, right? Because maybe their dream school in California didn't accept them, but they got into a pretty good program in Colorado. So they say, hey, sure, I'll go check out Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
And students will do that. And so in-state tuition is the tuition. The tuition is the price that you pay to go to school, right? We call it a tuition. So the in-state tuition is one price, and it's for students who are residents of that state. So if I live in Florida, right, I have a home address in Florida, I have a driver's license from Florida, my phone bill or whatever, my mail comes to my address in Florida. So I'm a resident of Florida. So if I go to any school within Florida, I'll pay in-state tuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I go to any school outside of Florida, then I will pay out-of-state tuition, which is somewhat like double the price, usually.
Whoa.
So this is an incentive for people to go to school locally, I guess, or to help people from the state. It's not that to go outside, they're penalizing you to pay double. It's that if you're in state, you're paying half. Let's think of it that way, or that's at least how I see it.
Yeah.
So if you're an exchange student, if you're an international student, then you pay out-of-state tuition. So you have to know that. And the other thing is, from the research I did with this student, you also usually need some type of like travel and health insurance to go to a school in America if you are a foreigner, right? If you're an international student. So you have to calculate that also into your cost. Because if you're an American, I think it's optional if you want the health care or not, the health insurance, the travel insurance. But if you're an international student, I'm pretty sure it's a requirement.
Yeah, it is.
But other than that, I think the community colleges are pretty flexible and they're pretty easy to get into.
Interesting. Yeah, it's nice to know, because sometimes like we kept thinking a lot about whole different levels of things, and this thing that you said about like having insurance and health insurance, it's actually required. And when I went, I never went to a community college or something like that. I went to just study English in a university, not a university. It was a international language school or something.
Right.
But I needed the health insurance and the travel insurance, as for the period that I went to that I lived there. I needed that. So because I was foreign, so I needed these health insurance. So it's a requirement. So for personal experience. So, yeah. And it's actually it's a completely like thing when you go to, and I don't know about the whole thing in the community college, but as I lived in Berkeley, inside the like very close to the UC Berkeley campus, I noticed, like as you said, about all these things that you notice on movies and things, like the sororities and frat parties and a lot of those things. So it's completely different, and it is huge. Like when you go to the football game from the Bears, that is the team that's from the UC Berkeley. So it's huge, but it's UC Berkeley is one of the top universities in the U.S. as well. So it's pretty hard to go in. You see, there's a lot of extremely intelligent people and people who just like is there to study and will become a top on the field where they're studying. But it is a thing that you need to understand and research a lot. All those things, as you said, if you wanted to live the culture of the university and whatever. So it's interesting.
It brings me up to another point. You remind me of something else that I should add. A lot of community colleges, they are usually affiliated, or they have some type of relationship with a bigger university on that city. So community college is something that is widely spread around the United States. Almost every city will have some type of community college. Every city that has a big university, for sure, will have a community college very close by.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, there was Berkeley, there's a community college nearby. I went to Palm Beach State College, and nearby, you could say, is Florida Atlantic University, FAU.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that FAU, which I didn't end up going to FAU, my brother did. And my brother did the same thing I did. He went to community college first, and then he went to FAU.
Uh-huh.
And the community college we studied in, they have an affiliation with FAU. So if you do finish your 2-year program in the community college, you got the good grades, you were a good student, you got all your credits, that bigger university will almost 100% accept you, almost 100% of the times, because they have that partnership. So they will incorporate students from the community college into that big university.
Uh-huh.
So that makes it very easy for people to say, hey, one day I want to graduate from UF, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
University of Florida. Very prestigious school, great program, go Gators, big football stadium.
Yeah.
So maybe you can't go there right away, but you can say, hey, I'll do 2 years in the community college in the same city, right? I'll finish my AA degree, which we call it the Associates of Arts, AA degree, the 2-year program, and then I will get accepted right into UF, and I'll have 2-3 years of that experience in UF, and I'll go to the games, right? I'll go to the big lectures, and I'll have a diploma ultimately from UF.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very cool, because maybe that dream university that you can't get into right away, you can go to the community college that has an affiliation, and as long as you apply yourself and you do really good in school, you will eventually go into that big university. So that's actually very cool.
That's very nice. That's very nice. And for everybody who just arrived or something like is just here for, I don't know, I don't understand. I just saw there's like Sandra just put it, I don't understand. I don't know if you're not understanding the English or if you're not understanding what we're talking about. But just for letting you know, and all the guys who just started to watching us here, we're talking about studying the U.S. So if you wanted to, it's not just about the big university. So it's quite interesting. If you wanted to go to U.S. to study, to look for the community college and all those like the smallest things around this huge university. So it's a nice way to get into one of those and to study and get to know a little bit more about the culture and how to study there and how to live in the U.S. and I mean to get to know people.
Right.
I think it's a huge and different experience. And this actually brings me another question that I thought here, and I just saw that is Lucila. She's asking that as well, and maybe that we even can do like this. The last question that I wanted to ask you, and
Sure.
She put it. So Lucila, thanks for the question, and she put it. Do you know if it's required for foreign students to have like a TOEFL degree or any certification on English level? Do you know that?
Good question. I do not know, and it's possible.
Yeah, I think there's
it would make sense.
Depending of the school, I think you have to do a little research. Depending of the school or the college or the university,
right.
You need like a higher level of the TOEFL or I mean any certification in English that they require.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on the level of some. They ask for a higher level in some of these certifications, and some a little bit more intermediate level. I mean,
yeah, I guess you might know a little better because because your experience was different, and it might be something that's actually very interesting to a lot of people watching us as well, which is to go to America not to study engineering or this or that, but to study English, right? You went to an English program,
mm-hmm.
right? Or like foreign students. And so I think that actually might be an option for a lot of students who are watching us who maybe they don't want to go study law or whatever. They just want to go improve their English.
Mm-hmm.
then I think maybe you have way more insight into like the application process for that and the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to go to a community college or a university in America, you have to consider that all your classes will be in English 100%.
Yeah.
And the students will not, the teachers will not stop the class to explain a word that you didn't understand.
Yeah.
They will not stop the class to make sure that that you're keeping up. It's completely up on you. So you have to have a good level of English. Not the best, but enough to where you can keep up with the classes. You will have to turn in all your homework, all your assignments, projects. Everything will be in English. So it makes sense that you have an advanced level of English, which then the TOEFL test or whatever would be easy for you. You shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
But to go to study English in an English school, then I guess, I don't know, you can tell me. What was the application process like for that?
Yeah, actually, if you guys are just wanted to just get the sense of how studying the U.S. is, and so I think it's these international schools to learn English. It's pretty interesting because you get the sense. You don't need to go there for like 2-3 years. You just go there. You can go for like I think the minimum is 6 months. I don't know, but you can go there and it's pretty okay. They don't. It's not any English level requirements. They have just the basic level until like the advanced, and you can choose. And you make a little test for them to know what's your level of English, and then they report to you on the specific level together with other international students. And I think it depends on what you want. I think it's to go there to improve the English and study these into these international language schools. It's much easier because then you're already there. Then you have the sense and you can ask questions and you can go to the community college and see how it is, and then you can go to the university and see what's the requirement. So you were there already, so you don't. It's quite different in a way. So, but it's pretty interesting to. It's an option. I think it's the first option probably that I would choose if I would be younger, and I choose actually. So,
Right.
But if I wanted to go actually to a university, I would definitely do it again. It's something that it's totally it's affordable. It's more interesting. You get to know a lot of people, so you don't have the sense of just okay, I need to be advanced level in English. No, you just have to test, and improve a little bit more day after day. But yeah,
Nice.
I think it's an option. I think it's pretty interesting for everybody who's watching. It's go to international language schools and get to the sense of how studying in universities and in the U.S. in general is. So I think it's interesting.
Nice.
And so I think we already talked a lot, and you guys already have a very good sense. I would like to say it again for everybody who's watching us. We are definitely doing an amazing promotion here on the description. We put a link. We're offering a 35% discount. So if you are watching us now, this 35% discount is just available for 3 hours after this live session. So make sure if you are interested to learn a little bit more English, or if you wanted to have a class with Guy, the link is in the description here as well. You can click and you can go to his profile. And I think you have a lot of things to do. If you have more questions, just let us know here in the comments and put it in the comments in the description of the video after that, and then we'll do our best to answer all of those questions, okay? And so thank you, Guy, for your time here with us again. It has been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Tiago. It's always a pleasure to participate. Had a great time. For the students, make sure you check out the link. It's a very good deal. If you are thinking about going to America, you want to work on your TOEFL test, or you want to improve your English, then schedule a class with me. It will be a pleasure to help. And yeah, thank you very much for having me again. And anytime you want to repeat this, we can talk more about the regular school system. How was school growing up? maybe that will be a different topic than university.
Yeah,
it was a pretty unique experience. But yeah, it was great. Thank you very much.
Definitely, it's very interesting. Well, let us know, guys, if you're interested in how the school system is. It's a very interesting thing to know as well. So yeah, thank you, Guy, everybody again for having us here. Thank you guys very much for the questions and everything. So if you keep having more questions, just let us know here in the description. And yeah, so see you guys next week. Okay.
You guys, thank you very much.
Hasta luego. Os veo en la próxima semana, ¿vale? Adiós.